The beard is weird.
Yeah.
I got stage fright, cuz.
Why, man?
For real.
What are you afraid of?
I don't know. People?
You're afraid of people?
Yeah, in general.
Why? They're not gonna
No
hurt. They're
idea.
not gonna harm you.
I was born that way.
You want talking to the microphone?
Oh shit, are we on?
Yeah, yeah, we're on.
We're
Now
live.
everyone knows my debilitating fear of humans.
It's all good, buddy.
Man, it feels good to be back.
Yeah.
It's been a hiatus of sorts. Feeling good?
Yeah. 1 sec. That's our intro.
It's like, hey Stu, how you feeling? Get fucked.
That's all right.
You got a little old English action.
It's
That's
not
what
old
it's
English,
like.
man. It's high life. I brought 3 for the boys, but you can clearly see I'm the only fucking one drinking it. So I might have been the butt of that joke.
It's all good. All right, Stu, kick us off with. I'm sorry. I'm sorry about the Cowboys.
Yeah, I'm also sorry about the Cowboys. So, welcome to Pirate Ship Podcast. Thanks for tuning in. We have, it's bittersweet. It hurts. The Cowboys lost to the LA Rams this past Saturday, and it was tough. It was tough for a Cowboy fan because you saw all the talent that we had, and then you saw a coach that could not execute the talent that we had. And then you saw him just get out-coached by a mastermind that was just so much more superior than they were capable of.
Well, yeah, that's the case. They got out-coached
Yes.
in all phases.
Who's the coach these days?
So it's funny you mentioned
Garrett?
that. Sean.
Garrett.
So you got Jason Garrett versus Sean McVay. Now, Sean McVay is a 32-year-old savant. As a matter of fact, they've done these videos about him where they'll give him these crazy scenarios that happened like 5 years ago. And they'll say, okay, it's second quarter, 4 minutes and 32 seconds left. What's the play that's run? And he goes, oh, that's easy. It's a wheel route to Crowder or something. And then he goes, what happened there? Oh, we scored a 40-yard touchdown.
Okay.
And then, yeah, he's just automatic. And it's in that degree of that level of savantness. And it's kind of funny because a lot of people, especially myself, I know I'm watching this and I'm thinking to myself, I'm 33 years old. This guy's 1 year younger than me. What am I doing with my life? Well, I mean, he's on the verge of going to the Super Bowl. And here we are just, here's a little rinky-dink show we made.
Yeah, we're talking about how he destroyed a team that I love. So they did what the Dallas Cowboys wanted to do, which was control the ball.
Win.
Win. Control the ball at the line of scrimmage. We gave up 280 yards plus on the ground to not only one running back, but to a second string running back as well. There was no defense. The defensive line, I don't even know if they showed up. The front seven, the linebackers couldn't stop the run. They beat us in every facet of the game. It was a terrible experience.
Well,
to
not
watch.
passing. The Cowboys actually had them in passing.
Right,
I think it was like 139 yards or something.
and that is very surprising. But I mean, they had already won the game, so they were playing prevent just to keep us from scoring whenever we were down. 20 some odd points, coming back to lose by 8.
Well, the X factor that I thought was going to be Dak versus Jared Goff. That was going to be the real key factor. I know it sounds kind of weird, but Dak is that RPO kind of guy. He's always going to run the ball if he needs to, if he absolutely has to.
That is funny that
Jared Goff would not do that. He's always sitting back in the pocket, trying to find the open guy. When it came to 3rd and 10, I believe, or 3rd and 12 or something, it was the very last play. The Cowboys had to stop him to get one more possession. And there goes Jared Goff. Not only does he scramble to get the yardage, but stays in bounds.
That's funny that you mentioned that, the run option, because you have a offensive coordinator that literally does not utilize his quarterback's strengths at all until the second half. And he ran, I think, 8 yards. He ran 8 yards, and Zeke had been getting stopped all game. And they only ran the option one time.
But again, I mean, credit to Wade Phillips. He knew what to do. Their whole intent was to stop Zeke.
Well, and Wade was
They were going to stop Zeke. That was their game plan, and Dak would have to beat him with the arm, and he couldn't. That's just the bottom line.
The real question is, where did the Savant come from? Because last I checked, I thought the Rams sucked.
So what happened was it was Jeff Fisher beforehand. Jeff Fisher was the head coach, and he's more of the old school type where, it's mud football and,
He hasn't watched all the YouTube videos.
Yeah, exactly.
He hasn't studied the plays.
Right. Sean, I think he was either an offensive coordinator or an assistant coach for the Washington Redskins. And so once the Rams fired Jeff Fisher, and they were in the process, they've already moved from St. Louis to Los Angeles, which was also the problem as well, just moving, and they didn't have a facility, so it was kind of a rough year for them. But they knew that they were going to get this slick kid, this football IQ savant, and bring him in. And they thought, well, if anything, they're moving to L.A., it's going to be a bigger type of explosion, and they'll get be able to have revenue and sell jerseys. But it actually turned out that this guy knows what he's doing.
You think he's borderline Aspies?
Aspies? Well, he makes eye contact with players and people, so I'm pretty sure.
What are you doing, bro? Oh shit! I thought you said move it in. I'm bringing it in.
Bringing it in.
I'll raise it up so you don't have to move so much. No, I don't think he has Asperger's, but I definitely feel like he's a gifted kid. He was a Suns coach, just kind of like Belichick.
You reckon he has to give up a large part of his life to know all these plays and to do all these things?
No, I don't actually.
No? I think he's just good at it.
Yeah, it's if you go and look at how he designs his plays, they're real simple. And it's actually based on like movies and stuff. So it's like we're doing Al Pacino, and everyone knows what the play is, as opposed to slick right 3-4 whatever like all these real long drawn out plays. It's we're gonna do Godfather or Al Pacino or Rain Man or whatever. So I think and that's a great way. It simplifies the game, and it really shows a cohesiveness, and that's what you get with a well coached team.
I agree, and that is. Hey, what's happening, right? Appreciate y'all stopping by and checking it out. What we're talking about right now is the Cowboys' fall from grace. You had a very dynamic team that that had the possibility of going pretty far. They won one playoff game in the wild card round, and then they got absolutely outcoached in the game before the NFC Finals, and that's just the way it went. And then what I'm really surprised to see is that you had a coach that saw everything that happened transpire throughout the season, and then how it got outcoached in the playoff game, and then he wants to go on the radio and say that, we do not plan on making any personnel changes. And that, to me, it does not make sense, because the offensive coordinator should definitely be fired. Why would you not fire that dude?
Yeah, but I mean, if you know Jason Garrett, everyone likes him. He's a likable guy. He also tries to be likable to everyone around him. You just can't get mad at the guy. And he's playing it PC and very vanilla, which obviously you're going to. If you're already Jerry Jones's boy, you don't want to sit there and say anything that's going to disrupt that type of relationship or anything that puts your job in jeopardy as well. So, of course, you're going to get that same vanilla, everything's going to be fine, because it's not his decision to ultimately make. We all know this. Jerry makes the decision.
Garrett's been there forever, though. What's the
because he's Jerry's boy.
Yeah.
He's the golden boy.
And that is, again, my take on this is that he didn't know. He didn't know whether or not there's going to be personnel changes or not. He was told what he was going to say, and he later recanted what he was going to say later on the day. He had another interview and said that, we're going to review the tape and we're going to see what type of changes we need to make and everything like that. And a reporter asked him, said, okay, well, you said earlier in the day that you didn't plan on making any personnel changes. Did something happen between then? He said, no, nothing happened. I don't remember my response. I don't remember my response to that question this morning. So it's pretty obvious that he's a yes man. He's being told what to think, what to say. And so that is been the storied history of the Cowboys for the last 10 years.
Yeah, and the silver lining is he gets to coach in the Pro Bowl. Pretty much what you can see is in the quarterfinals, if your team doesn't advance, then what they do is they go, well, here's a little hand-me-down, so you guys get to go, you and your coaching staff, to make it look like you actually did a pretty good job. It's the participation award. You know, I've always, now that we mentioned that, I wanted to make a joke about, I heard that people are getting really upset about these participation awards. And so I thought maybe we could kind of solve that problem by just giving every kid a black belt and let them wean themselves out.
I'll give him a black eye. That
Find out
would
who
be my
gets
start.
well, what's the next one? A white belt? Is that the next step? Find out who gets the white belt. Fight.
So unfortunately, well, and again, I don't think, realistically, I don't believe people should have had the expectation that the Cowboys were going to beat the Rams. It looked like a better matchup, but I mean, once you watch the first quarter and you had C.J. Anderson just running all over the place, it was just it was a no-brainer.
As a fan, you had hope that something would happen there would be a spark. And that's what I saw in the New Orleans and Eagles game, because you saw Drew Brees and company go down by 14 points in the first quarter, and it was 14-0. And then you thought to yourself, okay, what's going to happen? Are the Eagles just going to run the show the entire game and the Saints didn't show up? No, what happened is that you had a coach that made adjustments on the fly on both sides of the ball, defensive and offensive, and then they came back and they scored 20 unanswered points.
Did Sean Lee go in when you had big tubby boy C.J. Anderson running all over the Cowboys? Did you see Sean Lee go in to stop him?
Sean Lee was in, but he couldn't stop him.
Sean Lee
Nobody
still
could stop him.
plays?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
He's nice.
Yeah, he's getting old, and everything he injures, so it's
I can't
tough
think
for
of
him.
a Cowboys player that's still out there, huh? Sean Lee's the only one. Huh? He's the only one still standing.
All right, another note. So, did you say your goodbye yet, Stu?
Yeah, I did. I said goodbye to the Cowboys. It was, and you see all these fans that are saying this great season, everything like that. Oh, thank you, Cowboys, for the great season. Well, okay, well, there's a step. There's a step you're missing. You lost in the quarterfinals, and now it's time to take the next step in order to make your team a success. Because this league and these teams are not built on your possibilities. It's not a rebuilding year. This was the year that you were supposed to get it done, finish the fight. That's their fucking motto. And now you have the opportunity to fix your issues. Right now, pretty much every Cowboy fan knows or thinks that the issue is the offensive coordinator. So that's it.
All right. Well,
We're talking about Jason Garrett here, right? We're like, are we beating around the bush? Or are we talking about Jason Garrett?
Not Garrett. It's Scott Linehan. Scott
Linehan.
was given the role as the offensive coordinator, and Garrett was his play calling ability was taken away from him.
all right.
So
Rest in
that's
peace, Scott Linehan, if you do.
that. R.I.P.
All right. Moving on. So this is kind of old news, but I still wanted to bring it up because when I first saw this video, I watched it 100 times. Literally 100 times. And for those of you who don't know, we'll go ahead and just put it up on the screen real quick. Do you know what this is? Have you seen this before?
I think I know. Unless you're going to hit me with a curveball. Yeah.
Excuse me, it's ma'am. It is ma'am. You need to settle down and mind your business, okay? Ma'am, once again, ma'am.
I said both of you.
No, you said sir. Once again, it's ma'am.
I actually said both of you guys.
Man, look at that
Right
blowed out ass,
beforehand,
though,
you
man.
fucking said sir.
Sir? Okay.
Motherfucker.
Okay, right here. Now, really nice in trying to get to that point to where I have a problem. Now, even just seeing how the person's dressed, you can tell with the purse, the pink shirt underneath, and the pink shoes.
Does she have a purse?
Yes. Yeah. So,
Take it outside. If you want to call me sir again, I will show you a fucking sir. Motherfucker.
Motherfucker.
Do you reckon once they got outside, he would maybe show him his penis? Is that how he
well,
would-
that was the first thought. When you read the comments on the original video, they're priceless. So one of them is the person will call up because so he asks for corporate's number here.
I
Which,
need your corporate number.
by the way, you should have just walked out. Like, we live in the time of Google. Like, you can sit there and obviously look up the corporate number for GameStop or whatever. This was completely unnecessary.
Because I'm going to call them and talk about how I was misgendered several times in this store. I need your corporate number now.
So the joke is that he or she will call up. Oh, we'll call she. She'll call up and they'll be like, yeah, hold on 1 second, sir.
Man.
For me now.
Oh no.
Calm down and stop cussing.
Give me your
Stop
corporate
getting
number.
rich on property.
Well, I'm going to ask you for the 5th time to stop calling me a man, because quite clearly I am not.
And I apologize. I'm sorry for that.
Quite
ma'am.
clearly.
Quite clearly.
Number, is that okay?
Yes,
I'm
get it
just
for me
asking-
now.
I'm asking you to stop
Get it
cussing.
for me now. I'm not cussing. I'm not cussing.
I'm not cussing.
I'm not cussing.
Please. Ooh.
I haven't called you motherfucker in the last 20 seconds.
Get to that number.
Which is kind of strange. Like he wants to be. Well, I'm having a hard time with
It's
it. Okay.
difficult. It's a difficult transition.
She wants to be called a she.
If you know though,
I'm pretty sure he didn't want to be called motherfucker.
right?
So I mean, my response would be, "How dare you assume that I would fuck my mother?" that's a little judgmental if you ask me.
I'll give you that one. That one's good.
Right now.
She's calmed down now.
Keep bumping your gums. You're just going to keep bumping your gums and disrespecting trans people in this store, which I plan on telling the entire LGBTQ community. You're going to lose money over this.
Now, if you're LGBTQ at this point, do you support this
Behavior?
this behavior, this specimen at this time? Do you support this human in what they're trying to accomplish with their how do you say this politically correctly?
Gender identity?
Their
Yeah, gender identity,
There-
or was it gentrification? Is that what it's called?
Gentrification is where you push all the minorities out and white people come in.
Wow.
Or any, I don't know if it's specifically white people, any people that push other people out. I think maybe it's white.
Oh,
I don't
that
know.
is gentrification. My bad.
So yeah, gender identity is what they identify
maybe we
as.
should be a little bit more studied on that concept.
It was the first thing that popped in my head. Gentrification.
Don't get. I know all the things that white people can do wrong. Trust me.
That's definitely one of them.
yeah, that's one of them.
All right, my bad. I apologize.
But gender identity, yeah, right. But I mean, if you know, say that this person wants to be called a she, you should probably respect that.
Sure.
But you cannot know that when I walk up to you and looking like a man, I'm gonna be like, yes, sir. That's just a respect thing.
Yeah.
To do right, like yes, sir, no, sir. It's just a respect. But I can't know that everybody wants to be their own thing, right?
Well, that's the weird part. What we live in nowadays, you're supposed to cater to what a person identifies with. Which, I mean, I guess I don't have a problem with that. But at the same time, it's just getting a little out of hand as far as what people like. You cannot put you can't put thoughts in other people's heads, or you definitely can't read another person's thoughts. So just because the guy's saying "sir," he's just trying to be polite.
Right,
And when you blow it out of proportion, and again, when you see the man comes out, the deep voice, the brutalness.
testosterone. I think that's
Well,
what
a female naturally would start crying, get very emotionally upset. The last thing they would do is, let's take it outside, motherfucker. Like, that's the last thing.
let me show you this man.
Right,
swinging.
right. I've always heard it to where men and women are a little bit different, even in the physicality. Like, men are more broad-shouldered. It's all up here on the shoulders, like where the center of gravity is, and how they're built. With women, it's their hips. So if you see a man trying to walk like a woman, it's going to seem unnatural because it's just that not
He
natural.
clearly didn't. I mean, she clearly didn't have any hips. If you saw those bedazzled pants, there was no hips up in there.
Right. I don't know, man. It's tough. It's tough.
But
nowadays.
in no way, me calling you sir should incite that kind of reaction.
Right.
Like, fuck this place. I'm,
Maybe-
burning the whole building down. You called me a sir.
Maybe it was like the hormones or whatever. Like,
Could be.
That,
The treatment.
that could be an option. Like when you're taking and you're messing up your biochemistry just to kind of get this other kind of physicality or whatever, there might
Yeah,
be
you gotta
those
think.
side effects.
Well, I mean, at any given point, that behavior is not appropriate, right? You
Agreed.
cannot go into an establishment and start kicking over their shit just because
right.
of the
and
way
he was tearing the shit up.
That's
just of the,
Not-
the way that you
She,
feel
sorry.
that you've been.
if you go back and watch like when the kicking motion happened, like it was the weakest thing, and like just a little bit of it fell down.
so
I mean,
it looked
could
like,
have been.
it looked
I
like
thought
a
it-
female's kick, so the female could have been that.
I don't know. I don't know, man.
It's such a touchy subject
Hold
that
on.
you're getting onto because
when you have that when you're a certain way for, I don't know, we'll call him, I mean her 30 years old.
I love I love the clarification on both sides. Is it her, the
I'm
him, the
well,
he,
yeah, I'm not trying to
the
offend anyone,
she?
but to be conservative, 30 years old, you've had the same hormones or whatever for 30 years, and you start introducing some other shit. I can only imagine only bad things are gonna come from that
Probably. I
You
mean,
know?
if you think about it, like even if you got the corporate number and that video pops up, they'd be like, "Why did you destroy our shit?
Yeah,
We got a bunch of gaming consoles that don't work anymore."
right. Like, is this how we behave? You don't get what you want, so you tear up our store?
Yeah.
Well, did y'all see that crazy shit that happened in Canada where there's a 10-year-old kid that's posing with a half-naked, nude fucking dude guy, trans.
I couldn't look.
thing?
No.
You told me, and I just couldn't bring myself. Having a kid myself, I'm like, I can't like give them any more attention than they're already getting. So I didn't look. I saw the picture of the little boy, which was fucked up, but that was just a little creepy.
I mean,
And click.
it just goes back. It goes back to the society that we live in, and it sounds rough when we say what's acceptable or what we should look at as sensitive, like in a sensitive way. It's getting kind of, the lines are blurred, and I think this is a really good segue for Stuart to kick us off with blurred lines and identity crises. I mean, let's talk about, for one, identifying yourself as a human being. What if someone identifies themselves as
Apache attack helicopter.
yeah, or what about those crazy people that pronounce themselves as God, or
Here's what
chicken fried Jesus? I believe is my favorite.
There's
Have
one-
you heard of chicken fried Jesus?
That's
No,
actually
no, no, no.
amazing.
In Florida. There was a guy.
Of course, Florida.
He was like
Why Miami?
he was an ambassador, and he would be behind the KFC, and he was offering people gold bars, which were just pieces of wood that he painted gold. And he said that Jesus was his homeboy, that they were related, and that he could sell those gold bars, and you present that to heaven, and you get to go to heaven on the spaceship too.
No shit.
So what are you supposed to be? Really
Yes.
sensitive to that?
You'd be going to heaven, but heaven is basically a planet filled with crack cocaine.
Yes.
And that is the promise.
No shit.
Yes.
There's,
Of Florida.
and I saw one now where people are age identifying, right? Like this guy
Oh,
identified
yeah.
himself as a baby
Mhm.
who liked to suck like titties for milk and
Yeah.
shit. Like, are you serious? And he wore diapers. Like, where do you end? Where do you stop?
Well, I
Like,
think that's a great segue into who we are and trying to
Whoa, whoa, whoa,
identify
whoa,
with
whoa, whoa.
what.
not who I am.
Well, oh yeah, yeah. I'm not trying to assume that whatsoever. But that's the importance, and so we got a nice special show for you right now. Stu, you're gonna kick us off here.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's very fascinating that you talk about this because we talk about deities and stuff like that. People, they identify with superheroes all the time, mythology. There's very hardcore Christians, any type of religion that you subscribe to, right? There's this really interesting historical lesson, I guess you could talk about, but it's called the Emerald Tablets of Thoth, or Thoth, however you want to pronounce it.
When he gave it to me, I thought it was Emerald Thoughts. So
Emerald Thoughts.
Emerald Thoughts.
Yeah, I thought when I heard that he said we're gonna do a show on the Emerald Thoughts, and I was like, are you talking about them black bitches? Those little side hustles.
Yikes. Alrighty. So yeah, I mean, Austin, you've been a very big proponent of this book called Conversations with God.
Yes.
I don't know if you want to give it a little plug
Sure.
or whatnot. so
It's
that
not
people
really
can go
plugging
check it
the
out.
book per se. It's just plugging a piece of philosophy. And the concept is the importance of the individual. And that's the reason why we kicked it off with this silly video. But the whole idea is what I'm seeing is there's a huge identification issue as far as, and it doesn't even just border gender. It's about what people believe. It's who they are in their core. And so what I've learned from this book, again, just a piece of philosophy, as I like to kind of refer to, is the accountability and the importance of the individual and their actions. A lot of people have this misconception that there is external concepts out there that are hindering them from their dreams or trying to take away, or it's God did this to me, or this person did this to me, my neighbor doesn't want me to succeed, whatever it might be. This gets rid of all of that, and it puts the accountability back to the individual, stating your successes and your failures dictate based on what you do and what you choose. And I think that's a really good basis to kind of go off of as far as any individual, because it opens up the spectrum for anybody to kind of be who they want, in retrospect and respect to anybody else being what they want. When you want me to say that again verbatim?
I think that was put very well. So this actually kind of ties into your idea and ideology of that aspect.
Well, when you talk about the golden tablets, or sorry, not the golden tablets, the emerald tablets, if you will.
Emerald tablets,
Not as good as gold.
Yeah, exactly.
The green stuff.
Yeah, so it was, the folklore is that there is this deity called Thoth, or Toth, however you want to pronounce it. And this deity came from Atlantis. And we even have some of the script that we'll read later on in the show. But the bullet points are that he comes from his father, Thothme, was the priest, the high priest. And in Atlantis, where they lived, there was an island that was Undal. And Undal was the island of the high priests. And across from that island was Unal. And Unal was the island of philosophers and scientists. So already right there, we're kind of getting this description of a highly technological kind of society. So,
Segregation?
Maybe.
it sounds
Did you hear there was like
It's
10
so-
islands where the humans dwell?
it sounds very hierarchical
Like
in nature.
Those 10 islands, that's for the fucking regular folk. These 2 islands, philosophers right here.
Well, I mean, think about it. It's no different from what we have in universities as far as
True,
you've got your science department over here. You've got your mathematics department. You don't really have blended together, although it is science and mathematics, but you have this kind
STEM,
of...
baby.
Yeah, you have this kind
We're
of
getting grouped
segregation. Yeah. Designed for the purpose of what that particular task is going to be as far as what they do. So this is where this guy Thoth comes from. So little Thoth starts realizing that Atlantis is going to blow itself up. And he has this understanding to go to the land of the hairy barbarians, which is over in Kior, Kem, K-H-E-M, which is Egypt. And the whole point was to go over there and cultivate a civilization and kind of show we're going to build it all over again using these Neanderthals and these kind of primitive forces. And the cool part about all these tablets, and we're just talking about the first one, we might make this a 10-episode kind of thing considering what all the tablets are. But this particular one, it's about the introduction to the Atlantean culture and how they had to move around and get to the barbarians, if you will. And it talks about technology and what they used to kind of demonstrate to these primitive beings that were using spears and whatnot to kind of try to force them away.
And just a little background on Thoth. And Thoth himself he's an Egyptian deity that was revered as one of the main gods, if you will, of that mythology, of Egyptian mythology.
Yeah, the head of a ibis, is that what it is? Like a weird kind of bird-looking thing with a long nose.
Right. This is the
Egyptians love that shit a lot, and it's so weird.
and
It's an anteater,
These
dude.
tablets were they were found as these hieroglyphics, and they were translated and transcribed into what we have on record right now as to what has been translated.
So we're told.
Well, again,
Right,
yeah.
so
So
we're
we're told. So when I first heard about this, I thought to myself, why do I care? Well, why should I be interested? And what I started learning was that it kind of turned into like an Indiana Jones kind of quest, because not only has there been mentioning, so in the Emerald Tablets, it talks about the technology and these things and life and the life elixir and all these secrets to the universe, and they're somewhat buried at the Sphinx, or like it's like a map that you can kind of follow with the breadcrumbs.
National treasure.
Yeah, it is. It's like a little national treasure kind of thing for me. But the other interesting part when I started doing my research was Isaac Newton started looking at this stuff, because then you started getting a umbrella of that as far as what we call the Philosopher's Stone. And it has alchemy in there, and it has all of these weird, interesting kind of things that we might snub, saying, well, we already have our technology right now. But if you think about what we have as technology, what is it? Electricity? Is that pretty much what we have?
Yes.
Electricity and oil, right? What happens when that shit goes? And I've always said, when a big sun flare hits, we got nothing. Or your phone is only good until it runs out of its battery. So that's why chargers are so...
So we've got solar, but fossil fuels go. I mean, that's it. We're good with fossil
Exactly.
fuels, right?
Exactly.
Well, yeah, and everything's ran off of a grid, right? Like everything that we know and love and use is run off a grid. Your car's not going to run if there's a big fucking EMP or solar flare.
It will.
It'll run for a
you don't have
a certain amount of time.
If you don't have like an electronic car, like a Tesla, if you got like an old timey car, gasoline in a hand is all
well,
you
it
need to drive that thing.
utilizes the combustion of the.
I don't think EMP affects that, does it?
I think it would over time after your battery runs out.
Yeah,
What?
I mean, if your battery runs out,
whenever
you're
your
gonna charge
battery
it.
runs out, what the fuck are you gonna do to be able to spark that fucking ignition, bro?
Light a lighter. I don't
Yeah,
know.
yeah, right. Let's fucking put a fucking lighter in there and just fucking, please start
Yeah, but-
engine.
You ever like sprayed a little oh, what is it called? A little fuel starter and just give it a little light, you know?
Yeah, right. Okay, little Flint and little Flint and. All right, Stone fucking bullshit. All right, whatever.
Or here's a better example: putting your car in neutral, running it down a hill, jumping in it, boom.
you
got
can
your-
only
you can
do
ride
that
around.
with standard cars.
Right.
Yeah.
They exist.
They're very.
Best believe if some EMP goes off, I'm looking for the first
They're very rare.
fucking manual.
Okay,
Yeah,
but
that's what
even
you're gonna look for.
to get back to my point, it was
Sorry.
we're all relied on this grid, right? And to correlate with Toth is that talks about this unimaginable power in Atlantis. That fuel and that source is this magical alchemy type of I don't know, that magician type of.
Well, you're talking
magic.
about. You're talking
black
about.
magic.
Right.
Yeah, well, now you're getting into magic, and you're getting into this weird kind of dimension known as the Akashic records. And then now we've talked about this before on podcasts, but there's the Akashic records, there's the Hall of Records, there's the Hall of Amenti. There's all these weird kind of. It seems like they're talking about different dimensions, if you will. It doesn't seem to be concrete stuff. And so I thought that was really interesting. And so I started researching Edgar Cayce. If anyone doesn't know who he is, a prolific psychic. He would put himself into these states where all he had to do was lay on a couch, cross his hands, and he would just, what he said was go to this kind of meditative state where he would go to what's called the Hall of Records. And he would literally just be given a book about this individual that he was doing a reading to. Now, to me, I think this is an interesting point because let's take all the voodoo out of it for a second. Now, to me, it just seems like we're talking a basic memory recall. Now, I've seen people where they talked about, there was a guy who studied memory in general, and he always found it to be really interesting and fascinating because he was watching chess players and how they memorize their moves, or how people were
I read
just
that book.
memorizing just like real crazy. Cameron Johnson, the Sleeping Prophet.
Oh no, I read Walking with Einstein. He
He's
interviews-
mentioning Edgar Cayce. But the concept is you use your mind to start going into this weird place of you make things really smelly, or you make things colorful, or if it's a color you don't like, you go somewhere else. I've actually experienced this one time. It's a funny story. Stu came in to me. I was in the bathroom. And the reason why is I drew a bath. I wanted to see how long I could hold my breath. Now, we're both Marines, and so he comes in, like I'm on the first trial, and I'm trying to see like how long it was. Like it was maybe 30 seconds. And he comes in, he goes, "What the fuck are you doing?" And I was like, "Oh, I'm trying to see how long I can hold my breath." He goes, "Oh, okay, I'm in." So he shuts the door, and so he does his turn.
Gets in butt naked with you in the same tub.
Yeah.
I know how the brothers thing's going on. What's happening here?
So, but the interesting part was I started noticing, like, as I'm trying to hold my breath longer and longer, it's a challenge because, the physicality hits you. It's just the elements you can't get over. So what I would start doing was I would just play make-believe in my mind. And I imagined myself being at a bar, my favorite bar, and I would see these, the plaid shirt my friend was wearing. I could look at the color, and then I'd start painting it in my head of, oh, it's red and black. No, it's brown and black. And as I'm doing this, I'm distracting my mind from where I'm at. And all of a sudden, when I start I paint this beautiful picture in my head. All of a sudden, I realize, oh shit, I'm underneath the water. And so I pop out, and Stu's lit there, and he's like, "That's 2 minutes."
Nice.
And so I think it might be alluding to that kind of idea, because when you start looking at this text,
Yeah,
it
you
is
were
esoteric.
alluding to an idea that you were about to die. So you were going to that new place of that out of body experience.
I actually got to
Right.
death.
I talked to a guy that went to BUD/S training for Navy SEALs, and he said that's actually how you do it. That's what they train people to do.
I heard that maybe it's a myth from way back in the day, but they like drowned your ass and then they resuscitate you.
Yes.
Just so you know what it's like to like drown.
Yeah,
Yes.
they do. That's
Yes.
100% what they do.
I didn't know if that was true or not.
It is. And that's the concept. Like,
Let's do cry.
no.
I didn't
No.
go to Buds.
So, anyways, I just kind of picked up some information. This is all about Edgar Cayce. The Akashic Records contain the entire history of every soul since the dawn of creation. This is that general idea, and some people can find it through a meditative state, or some people have even claimed through dreams, which is also an interesting kind of venue.
That's a good segue also into the idea of accessing the Akashic Records. People say that you can do it through astral projection. And the way to get to an astral projective state is to go through a sleep paralysis state. I don't know if any of you have ever gone through sleep paralysis.
Oh, yeah.
But it's a very terrifying ordeal. And so there's a certain point that you can get to in order from phase 1 of a sleep paralysis state to stage 3 is being the astral projected and then being able to access the Akashic record. And it was, another thing is about these Akashic records is that order these books or these what is this? This is a hall of
well, so it's interesting as far as he talks about he would get there and there would be some elder or some guy and he would give a book. Like, well, what's in the book? What is it? Are they symbols? Is it writing? What language?
Braille.
Is it Braille?
Imagine having to go through somebody's life reading Braille.
Right.
That would suck.
And so, I mean, but when I think about that, it sounds the same as why we would make back in the day CD-ROMs, or you know, why we put things on a USB drive
Picture
and
discs.
put the information and make it go travel far places and say, here's this information you wanted. So I don't know. I think it's really interesting. It's definitely thinking outside the box, but there's also allusions to it in the Bible. Exodus 32:32. And again, this is the book of, now that we're talking about the book of life, we're talking about the whole big picture. After the Israelites had committed a most grievous sin by worshiping the golden calf, it was Moses who pleaded on their behalf, even offering to take full responsibility and have his own name stricken out of thy book which thou hast written. That's kind of fucked up,
It's
right?
Is that the book
Have
of
y'all been
life?
calling the book of life the Bible? Is that what y'all are?
No. So again, this is where it gets really strange. Were we talking about the Book of Life? Are we talking about the Akashic Records? Are we talking about the Hall of
You
Records?
just read from the Bible, though, right?
I'd read from a snippet.
Well,
It was a
right.
snippet.
A snippet of the Bible, though. I thought you
It's
said it was
called Akashic Record, the Book of Life, Edgar Cayce's readings.
talking about Moses. Isn't he like a Bible character?
Yeah. Another one in Psalm 139. God has written down everything about him and all the details of his life, even that which is imperfect and those deeds which have yet to be performed. That's interesting. Now, the only way I can wrap my little stupid brain around it is I think of choices. Like, everyone has a choice. And so, like, people that have had near-death experiences or they've been close to death, they always talk about seeing themselves in this just crazy infinity kind of way where it's, if I made that choice, I'm with that person and that's my life and I'm a dog walker or something, or if I made that choice, I'm now with this person.
Wait,
and
who
I'm
the
a
fuck
CEO.
is choosing to be a dog walker?
Just
You'd be
making it
surprised,
all up.
dude.
Fucking life.
Yeah, you
There's
never
animal
know.
people out there.
You never
there's
know.
an app on the phone where you can go walk people's dogs. I'm not kidding you.
Cameron Johnson says the Emerald Tablets of Thoth were a huge influence on Hermes Trismegistus. Yeah, I hope I didn't butcher that. And are guidelines to esoteric knowledge and alchemy taught to this day. Same type of teachings from the mystery schools. Well put. Do we know Cameron Johnson?
I don't know. That's not mine.
That's not yours.
I don't claim that one.
So we wanted to bring this up for the show because it's interesting to think about as far as we have all this technology. Again, we talked pre-show about how even Google seems to be this type of Hall of Records or Akashic record or whatnot. Anyone has Google at their fingertips. They can look up anything they ever wanted. Granted, it's not about their life, but we're getting there. Now we're getting to Facebook and all these things that they put on their social media where you can see yourself now. You can actually see yourself living that life. And we're not really finding too much happiness from it. And so that's where I kind of take a step back and look at this stuff. Like, what are we missing here? What's important?
Well, you see that's
Oh,
exactly
right on, Cameron. Okay.
Cool. You're Troy Baker's friend. So you see the Google and the power that it has. This collective consciousness type of thing, and then you have these stories from mythology of all omnipotent power and stuff like that, of deities that have this omnipotence, and then you have the Akashic records to where people can basically absorb this knowledge of
Through Braille.
anything.
I
mean,
like that.
That is a very great correlation that you speak of whenever it comes to Google and main age. We have this technology is very advanced. Is much more advanced than we've in the last 40 years. what we've been able to pursue as far as humanity is concerned is we're teetering on that idea of mythological. I mean, when we made sci-fi films, whenever they made sci-fi films back whenever in the 1960s or something, they talked about these where you can interact with people on video. They never
1984, man.
never even
The book.
never even suspected that would be possible. And now, yeah, at your fingertips, you have the ability to video call your significant other or whatever. You can send nudes to anybody around
Yes.
the world.
Yeah, so I don't think the issue is what we do with it. The question is, how do we build it? Because I know for a fact no one really knows how to program Google or how to, and it doesn't just take one person. It takes accumulation. You need a lot of people and a lot of source code and a lot of these ideas and a lot of people to put it all together, essentially. And I think it's kind of strange. Like, we talk about people that build the pyramids, like the Egyptians, and how it's one of the seventh wonders of the world. I think the internet should be up there as well. That should be one of the wonders of the world, because if you take any type of extraterrestrial, whatever, that looks at this planet, that's the first thing that they're going to see is they're all connected through this internet. That's very interesting. Do we have something like that?
You know how they build it?
How?
Advertisement statistics. That's
Advertisements,
exactly how
ads.
they build it. Google is looking at what makes you buy things, and then
Yeah.
they send you what you're looking for to buy more things.
Here's a little caveat. Revelation 20:12, those not found in the book of life will not enter the kingdom of heaven. That's a good one. Moving on, there was such a bond between one's name and one's existence that magic may be wrought on a man just as easily through his name as through his hair, his nails, or any other material of his person. So now we're talking about character. We're talking about what makes up an individual. We're not just talking about choices anymore. We're talking about intent. And that's the one thing I really want to get into, as far as how an individual looks at something and makes a decision. And I think that's pretty much, we're getting into philosophy now at this point. Again, you got the Philosopher's Stone, you've got these tablets that God knows what language it's in. How does a person look at this information, decipher it, and choose to say, this is what that is? That's a tall order.
That is a very tall order.
Everything all right?
How would you decide, Stu? Stu, how would you decide whether to believe this book of thoughts or not?
Thoughts or not? I feel like you can put that on a t-shirt, thoughts or not. But the way that I experience the first tablet of Thoth is that you see the incarnations that he's going through whenever he's at one point he's a master of Atlantis and he's a magician of Atlantis and he holds all these secrets and these powers. And then he fast forwards and he goes to Kem in these Egyptian men, and he's given them this knowledge. It reminds me of the story of Prometheus. You know, the story of Prometheus is a Greek mythology story. Prometheus was a demigod that gave man the power of fire. And that was the advancement of technology, because everything that has ever technologically progressed has been from fire itself. And so the iconicness and the correlation that this draws is that he incarnates in these lives, gives man this technology and this wisdom, and then it also goes down to say that men used it to conquer other men.
And
so you have that human fallacy.
I want to stop you real quick, because why are we so quick to deify this individual? Now, I get it's a weird imagery and all that, but I think that's a problem that we always go through. If there's something bigger or better that comes across our backyard, it's a god or it's a deity, or it can't be something of us. Unless we have DNA evidence, we can only assume it came from across the ocean. Again, this is according to the tablets. It came from the ancient Greece or wherever Atlantis was in that vicinity, which we still don't know, and went to Egypt. So why are we so quick to deify this individual?
I mean, Atlantis could be like an ethereal realm of a higher consciousness, something that you could never attain on this physical plane as well. But look at the way, look at the
Stargate shit.
look at the way that people deify billionaires. Like,
That's a good point.
Look at the Kylie Jenner that just got
She
beat.
got egg dropped,
She just got
dude.
beat by an egg on Instagram But look at that facet on its own. Mark Cuban, any of the major billionaires out there, people revere these individuals as these intelligent beings that they were able to accumulate this wealth.
So, but the question is, why? Is it wealth? It's wealth. Is it technology? It's wealth, right?
wealth.
Yeah,
At least in our day, if you've got lots of money,
You're the man.
You're the man. You can do whatever you want.
Elon
essentially.
Musk is a good.
Because the idea is you want to be that.
you want to be able to do whatever you want,
right?
And money buys you that.
A fucking alien came down right now and be like, I'd like to, yeah, that'd be cool. Can I be like that? I'm like, yeah, sure, come on with us. Well, you'll come over to this planet and eventually you're gonna, your body's gonna conform and yeah, you'll be that. I mean, if we're that malleable. But, I mean, that's all sci-fi talk. I mean, this goes back to who we are as individuals, as human beings. And the point that I wanted to bring up was, and it's in the passage where Thoth takes a look at these Neanderthals, these barbarians from Egypt, but sits there and says these things are actually pretty cool. They have a depth to them. They have this intensity that you wouldn't think of as a lower primitive species. Oh, and I have tons of money.
Yeah, exactly. That's
the goal raining out
That's the
of the sky.
deification that you find with people, is that they put people on this pedestal of something that they can achieve. That's the idea of grass being greener on the other side type of thing, is that if somebody was able to achieve it and look at them living their best life, that's why you have the filters on the Instagram and everything, that it personifies an existence that people are not really going to have, but yet they want it. And that's why if you take into account of a deity bringing this knowledge and this power of being able to do whatever you want with it, then people just conquer each other with it. And so,
I mean, that's the case with all technology. Just everyone play nice. But I mean, again, that we don't do that. And that might be one of our barbarian type of techniques. I'm reminded of that story. Did you hear about the guy who he recently was murdered by, pardon me, by these indigenous people that they don't want anyone on their island?
And his dumb ass.
It reminds me of the same thing. It's, like he's indoctrinated with the word of Jesus and God, and that's his technology is a fucking Bible. And he goes over and says, hey, everybody. And what happened? He got fucking murdered. He didn't have a good enough technology.
Here's the thing. Here's the problem with our shit is that it's money's behind it, right? You patent something, right? You got to be the first to patent it, or you're not going to make any money off of it. Mm-hmm. So it's not about getting technology for the sake of mankind. It's about getting technology to make the first fucking dollar. And if you can get that, then you can acquire, if anybody else copies you, then you can just acquire money off of that. So the first person, which is what they call patent trolls, they're the ones that take over the shit. So it's not about, people will patent shit just because it may generate a dollar in the future. So I think that's one of our problems is we can't get past these patent trolls and these people who just want to make the dollar. They don't want to advance civilization. They want to get rich, and they want to be this Jeff Bezos and this fucking Bill Gates or whoever.
I've actually seen that trend developing as far as humans are concerned and everything. Like, 'cause it started with the patents and everything, and people suing other people for...
Look at Walt Disney.
For, utility patents or intellectual property or anything like that. Well, then you look at the YouTube community and everything like that. Whenever it first started, the way that it first started is that everybody was making money off of it because it was new, it was brand new.
Guess what they are now?
So much things. Now you get copy strikes, you get fucking... you get all these things that are against you as far as what you can do in order to be this little performer trying to do big things.
They turn into
and
the
that
same
you
thing.
have the big companies out there, the established things like the monopolies of the Walmarts and everything, the companies that establish themselves big, and they started off as these small companies, but now they're these fucking mega giants that can squash anybody. Anytime they feel like it. We have to be very particular and careful about what it is that we display on our podcast as far as when it comes to musically or graphically or anything like that. And so that begs the question of whenever you get technologically advanced to a certain level, there's always going to be that thing that brings you down.
Well, the real question, again, it's where do these ideas come from? And I'm reminded of Elon Musk, where he's one of my favorite guys because when he says, I'm going to do this, he does it. It's no longer like, oh, patent trolls are in my way or any of that. Like, and I don't mean the steamroll concept. It's he puts himself in that position saying, it's going to be done. I'm going to figure it out. And if I don't know how, I'm going to figure it
And
out.
if he can, he's got a gang of fucking lawyers behind
Well,
his back
sure.
ready to rock and roll. It's not
But
like
that's
the
not how
average
he
man has.
developed in the first place. Like even like when he was on the Joe Rogan podcast and he smoked weed, that was a huge PR, blunder. He shouldn't have done that. But he did it because he was true to himself, and I think that's a really cool thing. We're running low on time. This nice little tidbit. We have a little couple excerpts that we're going to read, and the other concept that we didn't really get to is that we're playing a big giant game of telephone. It's where these symbols are, who saw them, who interpreted as what, and so we figured we kind of demonstrate that real quick. We got some passages we're going to read to Andrew real quick, and whenever you hear this, or you go ahead and you put your interpretation. You ready?
Good luck.
Okay. 100 times 10 have I descended the dark way that led into light, and as many times have I ascended from the darkness into the light, my strength and power renewed.
I'm super smart, but I'm not going to do the math for you.
Stoop.
My interpretation of that is that he's ascending, or not ascending, he's descending into this existence of man, basically, and living multiple lives. But he has this former self of who he knows that he really is, and he can access it if he goes back, but he still has this, like he says, tens of thousands of times that he's lived.
All right.
So
Then beware, O men of Kim, if ye have falsely betrayed my teaching, for I shall cast ye down from your high estate into darkness of the caves from whence ye came.
Believe what I say, I'm going to murk your ass.
You got a passage, Stu?
ditto. Yeah, I do have passions. Passions?
Passions.
Did I say
He
passions?
said passion.
I do have,
Stu's fucked up.
I do have a passage. Called to me, master. Called to me then the master, saying, "Gather ye together, my people. Take them by the arts ye have learned of far across the waters, until ye reach the land of the hairy barbarians, dwelling in the caves of the deserts. Follow there the plan that ye know of."
That's sex talk. I don't know what the fuck that is.
All right. Long dwelt we in the land of Kim, long and yet long again, until obeying the commands of the master, who while sleeping yet lives eternally, I sent from me the sons of Atlantis, sent them in many directions, that from the womb of time wisdom might rise again in her children.
Whew, something about rising again. Children. Sounds like Jesus talk.
You're doing great.
Few there would be with courage to dare it, few past the portal to dark Amenti, raised over the passage, I, a mighty pyramid. Using the power that overcomes earth force, deep and yet deeper place I, a force house of chamber. From it carved I, a circular passage, reaching almost to the great summit.
Are we speaking English anymore? What's going on here?
No, dude.
Stu, I'm gonna defer to Stu on this one.
Now I depart from ye, know my commandments, keep them and be them, and I will be with you, helping and guiding you into the light.
That's Jesus talk
That
about
shouldn't be-
commandment,
that
man.
shouldn't
That's
be
Jesus
too
talk.
hard.
I'm telling you. That's like, hey, listen to these 10 commandments or you're going to hell.
There is a lot of Jesus shit in there. Like, you can see a lot of correlation to it. So, I don't know. It's really interesting. Again, we might do more episodes with different tablets because it talks about the alchemy. It talks about, the mathematics and metallurgy. And the derivative came to Isaac Newton. He was so fascinated that he took this as a blueprint and really wasted a lot of his time, but trying to figure out this philosopher's stone and getting the elixir of life, as it's called, turning any stone into gold.
There are many innovators that were influenced by these, teachings or these scribbles, and it influenced them in a certain way to be a certain way. And if there's people that get motivation from many different things, so if you can find some type of motivation in this aspect to be a better human, or anything that you can reach down and give yourself to put yourself to where you want to be, there's nothing that can go wrong with that.
Your buddy Myth says, what about the tablet with the 10 Commandments?
The tablet of the 10 Commandments
It's an idea that they were ripped. It's an idea that they were actually plagiarized and used from the Emerald
It
tablets.
is.
If you dig deep into this stuff, the many mythologies of the world, whenever it comes to any of the big religions of Islam, Judaism, Judeo-Christianity, they have all been influenced by these old texts in some form or fashion, and these old texts are said to have been before this time. The way that I see it is that they have built pantheons and statues for these deities in the past, and they've prayed to them. They've something has influenced their life so much to a point where they would dedicate a very many part of them for it. I mean, I have a tattoo of Poseidon on my arm just because I'm just drawn to that deity in some way.
I like what you said. I mean, I saw an article the other day about China trying to grow a plant on the dark side. I don't know if it's the dark side of the moon, but on the moon itself. And so I think that's a really cool step in civilization. Of course, it came from an Asian culture because they're smarter, but
Yeah, their cultivation is better.
that's right.
Yeah.
All right, well, that's pretty much all I got. You got anything else? Sorry, we didn't get to interview you. We can do that next time. You like to grow leaves and plants, right?
I'm not trying to grow them on the moon, you know. I'm trying to grow them in my house so I can eat them.
What kind of leaves and plants are you? He's got a hydroponic system in his house, and I don't know.
Just lettuce and peppers. Simple life.
But using LED lights instead of sunlight.
Yes, artificial light and no soil.
Cool. Maybe we can talk about that next time. Alrighty, that's pretty much all I got. Stu, you got anything?
Yeah, you can join our Discord on the link below. Perfect. Catch y'all later.
Go ahead. Sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, you can join our Discord.
Sorry. Go ahead.
Can I finish?
I'm done.
Can I finish? Join the Discord. Discord's the best.
Discord is the best. And
It's kind of like AOL Instant Messenger.
we have
used to be.
Patreon.
My friends, I stand before you to tell a truth most dire. There lurks a traitor in our midst who hath invoked the captain's ire. Don't deserve no mercy, we ought to shoot him with a gun. But I am not an evil man, so first let's have a little fun. We'll tie that scoundrel to a rope and throw him overboard.